I thought adult competitions would be a breeze. I'm not trying to go to the Olympics or anything, but from surprising nerves to practice chaos, here's 5 things I wish I knew before I started competing. So the first thing I wish I knew is that I was still gonna get nervous even though the stakes were low. So I'm sure many of you know that I'm also an attorney. I represent parents and children in child welfare cases. In those cases, the stakes can't be any higher. I'm representing people who could get their parental rights terminated. I'm representing children whose lives could be permanently altered by the decisions and choices that I make. So the stakes are out the roof every single time. So skating is my relaxation. It's my space where the stakes are on the floor. But for some reason, my brain and my body weren't connecting that when I went to competitions. I have the worst nerves and the worst jelly legs at every single competition. It's getting better, but because it wasn't the high stakes environment I'm used to working in, and because I wasn't planning on going to the Olympics or anything with high stakes, I did not think I would get nervous. But I still get nervous to this day. And it's kind of funny because I find myself employing a lot of strategies to combat those nerves, like visualization, kind of dissociating, having positive thoughts. But it was kind of surprising that I was having to use some of the strategies that I know Olympians use to settle my nerves for a simple local adult competition with maybe 5 other skaters. I'll do a video in the future on these strategies because I employ so many, it kind of warrants its own video. But yeah, it was kind of surprising. As adults, we have big and real responsibilities, and our recreation probably doesn't register as something that could stress us out or give us nerves. But when you start competing as an adult, you're gonna get the same nerves as some Olympians, some high level skaters. Just because it's a local adult competition doesn't mean that you're not going to get nervous. Second, and this may be a little controversial, but not every one of your competitors is going to be friendly. I had assumed adult skating would be all cheers, high fives, us hyping each other up, like girl power moment if you're in the women's division. It is that. There is a lot of that. I have made so many friends with my adult figure skating journey. But occasionally, there's 1 or 2 people that might be a bit more competitive or intense at these competitions, and they can kind of throw off the vibe a little bit. Story time! Okay, so at one competition I went to, I was competing against, I want to say 4 or 5 other ladies. And this one lady in particular had some pretty high level skills. When I first arrived to the competition, she was really intense. So I'll be honest, I am not in competitor mode. This is partially to deal with my nerves, but I'm not in competitor mode when I get to the rink. So I do a few stretches. 1 or 2 of my friends are usually there, and we're kind of chatting it up as we stretch together. But this one lady was like off in the corner with her coach doing really intense stretching, like a whole workout. And me and my friend were kind of like, oh, she breaking a sweat, like she ready to go. But she wasn't really smiling at the other women in her division. She was really focused and she had a really intense energy. Turns out she had a camel spin and a Lutz, and we were in adult bronze, I want to say. I can't really remember. It was a while ago. But she had some pretty high level elements in there. And so I think she went into this expecting to win, which, she had a camel spin and a Lutz. So, of course, this is kind of a reasonable expectation. When I, at that level, did not have a Lutz, I think my most advanced spin, still don't have a camel, by the way. My most advanced spin was a very high sit spin at the time. So the expectation seemed reasonable, wasn't bothered by it, but I don't know what happened because I didn't watch her. Somehow I beat her. I edged her out by a very, very tiny margin, not a big margin at all. And I was shocked. But when I tell you, when we got the scores in, the energy that I got from her was very much accusatory. I believe she challenged the scores. She would not smile at any of us. She did not come to the podium. She was just very negative about me beating her. And keep in mind, I had complimented her dress. I knew it was like barely edging her out. And I kind of didn't really understand the scores on how I edged her out, but I think it was like a tenth of a point. So it wasn't like a landslide victory. But yeah, I thought that was really cutthroat energy for an adult competition, even though I understood how she could be frustrated by those scores. And don't get me wrong, I'm a very competitive person, extremely competitive. But I don't like to like be that competitive against the other adults. I like to turn that competitive lens on myself and be like, hey, can I beat this score? Hey, can I land this jump? Because when you turn that competitive lens on everybody else, you do get really you can get really intense or aggressive with your competitors. And that's just not the vibe of adult skating. And I'll add this last part. I don't need you to be super friendly to me at a competition. Nothing is owed to anybody. I don't watch the competitors who skate before me because I have issues with my nerves. I still clap for them, but I'm looking at my skates. Because if I watch them, if they do well, I'll hype myself up and be like, well, I can't skate that good, and not perform as good. If they do poorly, I'll hype myself up and be like, hey, I might actually be able to get first, second, or third rather than focusing on my points goal. So I'm sure I do some things that could come across as me being rude. That said, I think it's important for us to be adults and to show grace to our competitors. Third, and we've kind of covered this one before, the cost of competing really shocked me. I'll be honest, skating is already expensive, but the competition costs? Oh my gosh, they're high. Y'all, I have to plan my competition season the season before to make sure that the competition costs don't all hit me at once. So I'm an attorney, I get a bonus, and so what I do is I take a portion of that bonus and I allot it towards skating. So however many competitions that bonus can cover, that's how many competitions I'm doing that season. But it's not just the competition fee itself. It's the practice size time, the coaching fee, your coach's travel fee if they're going, the dresses, the gear, the hotel fees. It's a lot. And then if you're competing in IJS, you need to have an active club membership. So I include that as a competition cost as well. All of these things add up. So my first year, I ended up only doing 2 competitions. And that's because I was not prepared for those competition fees. And they were hitting kind of back to back. And I was like, oh, there's another one? Like, I want to go to that competition. Oh, shoot, I missed the deadline. Oh, crap, that competition fee. Like, it can really kind of bombard you. So my advice, so this doesn't strike you by surprise, is set your budget, know what your budget is, then get a calendar and mark that calendar up for the following year when you're planning to compete and put each competition on there. Not just the date of the competition, the date the registration opens, the date the registration closes, and if you're setting calendar reminders, the cost of the competition in that calendar reminder. So you can know when you have fees coming up. If you're putting it on like your paycheck schedule and you're using your paycheck directly to pay for it, it's kind of hard if you have 3 competitions whose registration deadline is at the same time. You could end up trying to cover $600 of fees for 3 competitions in subsequent months. So it's just best to be prepared and know what competitions you want to do, when the fees hit, and how you're going to pay for each fee. Fourth, and this one's kind of positive, I did not expect to be this obsessed with shopping for skating dresses. It consumes too much of my free time. The moment I have 5 songs selected for the season, I'm looking at dresses, y'all. I am on every single site to try to find the perfect dress, the perfect accompaniment to the music. And I know I own too many figure skating dresses at this point, so please don't judge me. But it's one of my favorite parts of figure skating. is the sparkly dresses, like the different cuts, the designs. I have tried to make my own dresses. Like, that's how obsessed I am with it. I suck at it right now, but I'm going to keep trying because I love that part so much. Here's a tip though. When I am shopping for dresses, there are two places I go that are kind of unique. The first one is I go to swap and sell sites on Facebook. So I found a few dresses on there that haven't been like quite perfect, so I've never bought a dress from there. But I have sold two dresses on the swap and sell sites. So it's a good place to go. I sold them at a significant markdown. I think I sold them for $50 and I had paid $150, $175 for either of them. So somebody got a great deal. The second place I go is eBay. They have way too many dresses. And I feel like there's like some controversy about this, but I really don't know where else to find dresses. I look at Etsy, but Etsy has a smaller selection. And so finding the perfect fit, which is what I'm looking for and a bit obsessed with, is a bit harder. But you can also go to Etsy. Oh, and the third, I like to look at dance costumes as well. So there's a few brands. I think Wiseman. I'm probably butchering this other one, Balera. But I'll search those as well. And so I have a few dance dresses that I could utilize in the future. Because I like shopping for dresses, I am not the greatest at reusing dresses, but that's also an option. So when I'm doing that, what I'll do is I'll actually start looking at the dress and then picking the music. I won't do it in reverse because for me, the two need to work together. And I know judges don't care about that as much with adult skaters, but it's important to me. And fifth and last, I did not expect practice ice to be that intense. So I think I didn't really understand what practice ice was. My coach told me it's so you make sure that you touch the ice the day of competition. Great, got it, logged away. I got out there for the first time and it was a mix of littles and adults. So the skill level was kind of weird, like the range of skill level. And everybody's going like the speed of light. I'm out there with Buzz Lightyear on steroids because you only have 20 minutes and you're trying to hit everything in your program, make sure everything feels good and secure and stable. And so at practice ice, I'm always, every time I have broken a sweat on the ice. Doesn't matter if it's in winter or summer, I'm sweating during practice ice because you can't stop. Like, you just got to keep going. And it's not just like keeping moving and making sure you're hitting your elements. It's dodging potentially 19 other people. Because I think most practice ice is capped at like 20. I've only had one practice ice session of my entire time competing that had very few people. And I had selected the first practice ice of the day. Because your girl was working and she forgot about practice ice and did not register for practice ice until 2 weeks before competition. But anyway, it gave me very, very sparse practice ice. But usually you're out there with a ton of people and you're having to dodge a ton of people. And don't let it be the littles who are not yet spatially aware. They're a bit shorter. So I felt like I was looking up and down just to make sure I wasn't going to collide with any other skaters, especially not a little baby. And I've actually collided with someone before. Thank goodness neither one of us fell. And she was a teenager, so it was a little bit better. I really am terrified of hitting little ones. I'm terrified of it because they're so tiny. But yeah, practice ice is really, really intense. The other thing with practice ice that I didn't expect is sometimes they'll mix in the adults with the higher level teenagers. But when I'm out there with those teenagers landing doubles, doing crazy spins, the comparison trap the first time, it hit me really, really hard. Like, I am not able to do those things. And so I think I had one of the least productive practice ices I ever had because I fell so hard into the comparison trap with those teenagers. And I think there were a couple of gold level adult skaters. And so that had really like intimidated me. And then like the last piece of practice ice that's really kind of difficult to deal with and I didn't expect was making a mistake during practice ice, and that mistake kind of staying with you into competition. So when practice ice goes really well, and luckily for me, practice ice seems to be where I shine, and then competition, we'll see what happens. But when practice ice is difficult, I kind of carry it into the competition. So let's say that my sit spin wasn't centered, I didn't get into it well, I didn't get out of it well. This happens a lot actually with my sit spin. It needs a lot of care and attention for me to really nail it. And so a lot of times in practice ice, it doesn't go. And then I carry this anxiety of, oh shoot, my sit spin did not go in practice ice. What's about to happen in competition? And sure enough, it gets myself in a nervous place. I kind of manifest it into going haywire during the competition, and boom, crappy sit spin during competition. So I didn't expect practice ice to impact my performance so much, but it does. That said, that's something that you work on. That's like a nerves issue. You can work through that. But it is surprising. Like, practice ice in general was not what I expected at all. So obviously, none of these things that took me off guard stopped me from doing it again, right? So even though these things were surprising and some of them were negative and some of them were positive, none of them stopped me from pursuing competing in the future, and I'll continue to compete as long as my legs are working. But I still wish I had gone in knowing some of these things so that I could be better prepared as an adult skater. Well, that's it for now, y'all. If you had any pleasant or not so pleasant experiences or revelations for competitions, please let me know in the comments. I'm genuinely interested. Happy skating!